Throughout the generations of Pokemon, many legendary Pokemon that are harder to catch than regular Pokemon have appeared. All legendaries, though, have extremely low catch rates that definitely make them harder to capture than regular Pokemon in the wild. Not only do they have very low catch rates, but some of these legendary Pokemon have their own unique trials, puzzles, and other sorts of obstacles that can put any Pokemon player to the test before they are even allowed to throw a Pokeball at it. Some of these legendary Pokemon's trials I know have tested our wits and patience, and that is what makes them truly legendary. Today, me and fellow PokeTuber Twintendo will be counting down our top 5 hardest legendary Pokemon to catch.
Hey guys, Twintendo here. As Mystic said, we will be discussing which legendary Pokemon are known to be the most difficult to catch. Do remember this is our own opinions, and if you have your own list from your personal experiences with the Pokemon games, let us know in the comments below. But without further ado, let's start the video.
The first Pokemon on this list is Giratina, or Origin Form Giratina. Giratina is one of the main legendaries from the Sinnoh series of the Pokemon games. This Pokemon has a very unique history of being one of the hardest legendaries to catch due to its wacky puzzle in the Distortion World. In Pokemon Platinum, after reaching the top of Spear Pillar, the player must get through the Distortion World by either hopping, running, or doing whatever is needed to get past this crazy maze. The Distortion World can also tilt and bring the world to many more angles, making it that much harder to navigate through it. This world is just so complex, and definitely proves to be one of the most challenging trials when it comes to catching a legendary Pokemon.
Next up on this list is one of the most popular legendaries out there, Rayquaza. Rayquaza originates from the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire game series and is located at Sky Pillar, which is found just off Pacifidlog Town. Rayquaza is definitely one of the best designed Pokemon out there, no questions asked. This is definitely one of the reasons why it's so popular, and another reason why Rayquaza might be popular among fans is because it's not an easy Pokemon to catch. Sure, it might be easier in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but this Pokemon was a different kind of monster back in the originals. First of all, to reach it, you had to carefully maneuver over tiny cracks in the floor whilst going at ridiculous speeds on the Mac Bike. This meant taking sharp corners at crazy speeds, with failures sending you down the floor. This won't take you a few tries, most likely you would be there for at least 30 minutes trying to get to Rayquaza on your first visit to Sky Pillar. Once you've finally reached Rayquaza, you've only done half the challenge. The battle is where things really heat up. Firstly, you encounter Rayquaza at level 70, which is the highest leveled wild Pokemon you'll find in the game. Secondly, its move pool will definitely make you rage, as it can dodge attacks with Fly and heal up its damage with Rest. So if you do want to catch Rayquaza, make sure to brush up on your biking skills and bring a lot of Ultra Balls with you, because Rayquaza will eat those for breakfast.
So for this next one, we have all of the roaming legendaries. As Pokemon fans, all of us can say we have had trouble catching these Pokemon. The only ways to keep them from running away are to use moves like Mean Look, Block, or to put the Pokemon to sleep. It's true that the player can have a Master Ball, but there is only one Master Ball per game. So if there are more than one roaming legendary, the player better make the right choice, otherwise it's gone. They also appear in random spots throughout their respective regions. So if the player doesn't have them in their Pokedex, finding them can take a lot longer. However, there is an exception with this in the Sinnoh games with Mesprit, being able to track it with the Poketch. Even when the player can track the roaming legendary though, flying towards them can make them randomly relocate. Even without flying, the chance of randomly relocating is still there, but there is a smaller chance of that happening if the player actually decides to go on foot or on bike. Not to mention, some of these Pokemon also have their own set conditions before they become roamable legendaries, and some even have set times and locations. Nonetheless though, these Pokemon are definitely still some of the hardest legendary Pokemon to catch.
Taking up the number 2 spot on this list is Landorus, the Abundance Pokemon. Landorus is located at Abundant Shrine, an area that is deeply hidden in the eastern part of Unova on Route 14. However, finding Abundant Shrine is half of the problem. Landorus will not spawn there unless you have both Tornadus and Thundurus present in your party, and that's where things get complicated. Firstly, you need to catch either the roaming Tornadus or Thundurus, depending on your version, which is a bit of a pain as Mystic explained beforehand. After running and flying around the entire region to catch one of them, you'll need the other one as well. So that's where the trouble lies. After all your hard work, you wouldn't want to give away your legendary Pokemon, even if it was only for an hour, would you? Furthermore, it's quite difficult to find someone who would be willing to trade you either Tornadus or Thundurus, especially over GTS. We all know how ridiculous that can be. But if you're lucky and your weeks of begging paid off, you'll be able to visit Abundant Shrine and battle Landorus, which is equally tough. Landorus is encountered at level 70 and has a very good move pool with Sandstorm, Rock Slide, Earthquake and Fissure. It also has a good ability in Sand Force, which makes its moves 30% more powerful. Not only is it defensively solid, but it can really pack a punch. It also doesn't help that you'll have 2 of your slots taken up by Tornadus and Thundurus, 2 Pokemon that might be underleveled for this battle. So if you do manage to catch Landorus, you can definitely call yourself a Pokemon Master. Also, you might want to give your friend a Tornadus or Thundurus back. Just saying.
The quest for catching the Reggies is by far, in our opinion, the hardest set of legendaries to capture in the Pokemon games. From reading Braille to having certain Pokemon in the player's party, there are many steps involved in catching these Pokemon. Not to mention there are also a lot of moves involved with getting them as well. Dive must be used to get to the underwater cavern on the side of Pacific Town. After that, the player is encountered with Braille writing, and they must dig in the center of the sealed chamber, as well as having a Relicanth and Wailord on their team. After the Braille is read in the second part of the sealed chamber, the player is then eligible to catch the Reggies. Each one of the 3 Reggies are located in their own special chamber in Hoenn and have a special way of opening them. These ways and the whole process of finding the Reggies was very difficult back when the original games were released, especially if you were kids like us who didn't have access to the internet or guidebooks because of how broke we were. Nowadays with ORAS, information can easily be found on how to capture the Reggies. Well, that pretty much wraps up our top 5 hardest legendary Pokemon to catch. These legendary Pokemon are definitely some of the hardest ones to catch out there, each with their own unique puzzles, tricks, and shenanigans that really test the trainer's wits and skills. What kinds of legendaries do you feel are hard to catch though? Share with us in the comment section below. I've also been thinking lately, what are some of the most mysterious places in Pokemon?
Well, if you're thinking the same thing or you're just interested in the history of Pokemon, come check out the video me and Mystic made over on my channel, which is the top 5 mysterious locations in Pokemon. It'll definitely leave you scratching your head.
With all that being said though, I've been MysticUmbreon, and I will see you in the future for more Pokemon content.